Okay, uh, so this one is where we're going to start using Ruby on Rails and for creating an MVC application. Okay, let's see. This one is a little bit long. We may not be able to complete it today, and so whichever we finish today, we do that. And all right. Now this document is also, of course, on Canvas, and let me walk you through what we're doing here. And firstly, we're going to create, starting with creating a new Rails application, and so then we'll go ahead and add Haml and Haml Rails to the file, so that we'll be creating Haml files, and then we will do the bundle install like we did before. And then what we'll do is the idea is we're going to create a database that will have one table called movies, and then we will put some data in it. The movie table will have a title column, a rating column, description column, release date column, and so these 1, 2, 3, 4 fields will be there in the in the database table called movies. And then we will put some data into it using the console, similar to the SQLite console, but this time we'll be using the ActiveRecord system for putting some data into it. And then we have some pre-built code for adding a whole bunch of movies into the movies table. So this is kind of a default movies which will be set up when we create the application. And then we will set up the front end for displaying these records. Okay, so we'll create a Haml code for showing the movies, and we'll also create a controller which will show the list of movies. So there's going to be a method called index, and that method will simply get all the movies and we'll send it back to the front end. Okay, at the front end we'll use the Ruby code Ruby method called .each to go through each movie and show the contents of the movie record into HTML, into Haml code. And once we've done that, we'll add a little bit more, we'll tweak this application to make it a little bit more efficient. That's in the last 25 and 27. And then we will create a new view to show just one movie from the list of movies, and then we'll create another view for adding a new movie. It's another form. And then we will I don't think we're going to have time for all this, but we'll actually then create some code for software code reuse. We'll rearrange stuff so that code gets reused. And finally we'll do another form for updating movie, and then we'll add a form for deleting a movie. Okay, and all this, so create, insert, update, delete, retrieve, all those operations will be done on a movie table, and the front end will be done using Rails. Okay, all right, so switch to our Rails here, and we had it running, had the program running, so press Ctrl C to exit, stop that, and go back to the workspace area. Okay, and once you're in the workspace, I have hello again is one, but the same level as Rails project folder. I want to create the new one. So you want to I'm on step 3 on the handout. Okay, so we want to start by doing Rails new rotten potatoes. Now, incidentally, there is this website called Rotten Tomatoes. You guys heard of that? Yeah, it's a site where they post movie reviews, and then movies get a number of tomatoes. I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, this one is potatoes. Okay.
Yeah, this was good.
Yeah, the Rotten Tomatoes is another website. So if you go Rotten Tomatoes. See, this website is where people can post like reviews of movies, as well as say how many potatoes or how many tomatoes you should get, and okay, so the content, so these are different. Okay, it's 50. Average rating is 50%. So that's not good. All right. Okay. So the idea is, you want to use this site for rating movies as well as posting reviews and so on. And we're not going to create anything as fancy as this, but we're going to just create Rotten Potatoes. That's a little bit very, very low key compared to Rotten Tomatoes. Okay. So Rails new Rotten Potatoes. And so once you got it, then complete, then you change directory to Rotten Potatoes. Okay, and then you want to edit the gem file. There are two, actually, I said Hamel Rails, so gem Hamel and gem Hamel Rails. Okay, so all right, I think we need these two. So that's on step 5. Under the development group, development, okay, we already have a debugger, and so development and test. Okay, it used to have a problem before. Let me see if this will work. Gem debugger. Okay, so let's save these. So Hamel Rails and debugger. Okay, so that's in step 5. All right. If you're falling behind, just raise your hand, so I'll slow down so that we all kind of go at the same pace. Okay. All right. Then bundle install and -- without production. Okay. See, I thought debugger was some problem. Okay. Now what we'll do is, since we want to, sometimes what happens is if you try to install a gem, it may cause a problem, and you fix that, and it may cause another problem, and so on. Sometimes the notes from book and so on may not be quite up to date with the gems that are out there. Okay, So this one says got a problem with that, okay, with debugger. And so what I'm going to do is we're not going to use the debugger now, so I'm just comment this line out. It says gem debugger, okay. All right, and then save this without the debugger, and then okay, and bundle. Okay, this time it went through. So bundle is complete, which means the necessary gems are ready to be used. Okay, and of course the server is running at we can check it out. Right now there is nothing there to see. Okay, so let's go to line number 8. Okay, let's run the server. So you do Rails server -p $port -o -b $IP. Okay, and so it's running. You click on this link and open. It shows you the basic page. That's good. And at this point, but then we don't want this. But on line number 8 in the handout, it says we want to add /movies. Oops, sorry. So /movies, enter. So now we get a routing error. So it means it doesn't know how to resolve this. So it's trying to look for a method called get with this as a parameter. Okay, so it's looking for get movies. Okay, and so what do we do this? Well, it's looking for a route, so let's go ahead and give it a route. Okay, and so step number 9, if you go to config and under config routes.rb, okay, we have there is a, we're calling, okay, there's nothing in there. Okay, he doesn't know how to route anything. There is nothing there. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell it to say if somebody wants a root folder, and then redirect them to movies. /movies. Okay, and save this. So this simply indicates that even if you, in the final URL, if you did not specify movies, if you simply try to go to the root, it will redirect you to /movies. Okay, and so let's try that. Okay, you get that same error. It's redirecting to movies, but there's nothing to show yet. Okay. Okay, at this point, there is no content, so we want to stop the server and we want to create a model. Okay, so Control C to stop the server, and we want to create a there's Rails command called Rails generate model, and we're going to use that. So model is the data part of the web application. Okay, model refers to the data part as well as the business logic part of the application. So the data would be like your database, and any other logic of how this data should be retrieved and processed, that also becomes part of the model. Okay, so what do we do here? Step number 11, I want to run Rails generate model. Okay, earlier we did Rails generate controller. This time we're doing Rails generate model, and movie M capital. It's not movies, it's just movie with M capital. Okay, now the Ruby, what it does is once you do this, it will create, it uses what is called ActiveRecord. So ActiveRecord is a system that enables you to interact with the model, especially the data part of the model, and also it will create, help you create a database for this application, and so it creates a bunch of files for us. One is called db migrate. It's got a long number and underscore create movies. Then it also creates app models movie.rb, and also for every application that you create, it'll also create systems or files for testing your applications. Later we will use this test aspect of Rails to create to use what's called test driven development, and for now we're not worried about testing. Okay, we want to see how this thing works. All right, and so these files are created. Now if you go to your app folder, and now we have models, you click on models, and you have something called movie.rb. Okay, double click on that. Yep. Yeah, sure. Okay, make sure you're not misspelling. Okay, are you in the right folder? Do pwd. It should say workspace / .NET. What message do you get? Have you done bundle install? Okay, all right. Okay, we are all good. Let's continue. So let's take a look at the movie.rb file. Double click on it, and it's got nothing in it. So this is under models movie.rb, and it's creating a new class called movie, and this movie is inherited from application record. Okay, so that is going to be the application record is part of the Rails namespace, which will help you set up any kind of rules or business logic that should be used for accessing the movie information. Right now we're just going to leave it blank. Okay, but under app there's a folder called db. So open db folder, and you would see a file called db migrate. Under migrate you would see the file that's got this long number in it. Okay, you double click on that, and it creates a new object or new class called create movies, and that's going to be inheriting everything from the migration class of the ActiveRecord module. All right, so then once we create this new class called create movies, we're going to modify the existing method called change and to do something else. Now within this, what are we going to do? Well, there is this within the change method, we're going to create, there's a method called CreateTable, and that will be supplied with a block. Now the block needs to be completed. Okay, and so what we do is we go ahead and type in this code for t.string title, t.string rating, t.text description. Looks like we are defining a table. T.date time, release date, and then we already have t.timestamps. So that is def change. Then we don't have anything for def down, so let's go ahead and add another method here. So with def down, we're going to call a method called drop table, and to that we're going to submit one argument, movies, lowercase, and this will delete the records. Now what we're doing here is we are using ActiveRecord is a class that lets you interact with a table, a relational database table. So a relational database table is two-dimensional, but Ruby is object oriented. Okay, so ActiveRecord is like ORM. It stands for object relational mapper. So ORM, and so ActiveRecord will be very, it's a kind of convenient tool to help you kind of go between the object side of Ruby and the table side or relational side of the database. Okay, and let me see if I have anything on object. Okay, okay, we'll see that in just a bit. All right, so and also notice there is this database called development.sqlite3. Okay, it's got nothing in it because it's a blank database. Okay, now so we are using ActiveRecord as a kind of go between our front end, which is our relational data. It's an object oriented Ruby application, and the database, which is in the back end. Now what looks like here, it says def change and def down. These are actually methods inside ActiveRecord. We are modifying it, and we are modifying it by providing it a block. Okay, now the CreateTable happens to be a method within ActiveRecord, and that then string happens to be a method in ActiveRecord, text happens to be a method in ActiveRecord, and so on. So these are actually, they look like you are specifying, the field data types. Actually you are invoking a method called string, a method called text, a method called date time, a method called timestamps. So these are being invoked, and we are passing these as arguments. Okay, but looks like we are defining a table. Well, the effect is that we are defining a table. It will help us create the table. Okay, the table is not created yet. We have simply specified what's called a migration. Okay, this is under migrate. See, this is under migrate. So migration is essentially a script that will be that will help you create an instance of the database at the specific point in time. If you look at the number in migration, on my screen it says 2016 10/21. Does that make any sense? Yeah, that's today's date. 2016 10/21, and followed by I believe then followed by a number or time maybe. Okay, and so this is possibly a time that's on the server, which is C9, the Cloud9 server somewhere. Okay, and so it is it's actually sort of it has a unique name. So this 2016 create movies is a unique name. Now every time we create a new model, okay, this new migrate will be created. Okay, so which means every time you create a new model, you'll have a new way to create a database table. Okay, now once we got this far, next step what we want to do is, yeah.
What does with recording t.timestamps?
Well, t.timestamps,
It doesn't have any name.
right, now it doesn't have a name. Now in Ruby or Ruby on Rails has this thing about creating records. Whenever you create a record in a database, it's going to automatically record the time it was created.
Whenever we migrate the database.
Now whenever we add a new record to this table called movies, that time when it was added will be recorded in timestamps. Okay, so timestamps will be used as a way to keep track of when each record was added in a table. So for auditing purposes or for anything else, you can use this. Okay.
So there is no column for that.
Well, I think the default name will be timestamp. Okay, it's not timestamps, but it's going to be, it'll create one for the time it was created, each record when it was created, each record when it was updated, and all that will be recorded. So it's not just one field, but many fields. You'll end up having many fields. I don't remember, one for creation, one for update, and so on, one for access, and so on and so on. So all those times will be recorded, and so that's what this one will do. This will create multiple timestamps for each record. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now this one is a database that is generated. So when we did the last command was when it did Rails generate model movie, it creates an empty database for me. Okay, and it's going to be a SQLite database. So with this database can be opened using SQLite 3, and you can see what's in it after you put some data in it. Okay, so by default it's going to have SQLite 3 as the database file. Okay. All right. Step 15. Okay. Next step is we're going to do something called Rake. Okay. Now Rake is a new kind of a tool, and it is something available in Rails. And if you are familiar with Unix or C programming environment, there is a utility called Make. Anybody remember seeing or using it? Make? Well, possibly not. Now, the thing is, when before we had these nice IDEs, integrated development environments, the programmer had to write code individual files. Let's say you have a C project, a project where code is written in programming language C. And so you'll have multiple modules, something.c, module 1.c, module 2.c, module 3.c, library.c, and so on. So all those files will be there, right? So programmer's job will be to compile them, right? You use a compiler like C compiler, like CC, and then once you compile a source code, you get O file, an object file, right? And then you combine object files to create executable, right? That's how compilation is done. So the object, the C file is converted to O file, which is converted to executable file, and sometimes the combination of object files are clubbed together, and sometimes some object files are done separately. Okay, so there is this different ways the source code files are managed. And to make all those, compilations and so on, and linking and compiling and linking, the C programmers on the Unix environment had something called make. Okay, there is a utility called make, and this make will have there's a make file which will essentially say you got to compile these 3 files first, create an O file out of that, then link that O file to this other library, and then create an executable. That logic of how to combine C files and the object files and so on will be declared in something called make file. And there is a utility called make, which will then use that make file to create a project executable for us. So that's how things are done on the C environment. It may still be here, make. Okay, see, we have make is already here. So if you do make help, okay, so you have make is you have documentation on make. Okay, and also in this kind of environments, you can also look up the manual, and you can type man make. Man is for manual, and so Unix environments come with the manual built into it. So if you want to know any Unix command, how to use it, just look up the manual. The manual can be accessed directly from the prompt. You simply type man followed by whatever you're looking for. So this is how the make utility to manage, maintain groups of programs. All right. So this is for every tool or application within Linux, which is a variation of Unix environment, you have the manual already built into it. So if you want to know about man, and if you want to know about CC is a compiler, right? So it's a new project, it's a compiler. So you can write C code and use CC to compile it. And or there are other utilities like other Linux utilities. There's something called grep. You guys, anybody used grep before? And you want to know how to use grep, you can type man grep, and you get documentation on that. Okay, so grep is a very useful tool for parsing files and so on. There are many such utilities available within Linux, and documentation on them, you don't have to Google them. Instead, you just type man, name of that utility, and you get to see it. So now what is coming back to our Rake? Rake is basically it's a make file just for Ruby, right? And so it's Ruby make is what Rake is, and it's useful for taking in Ruby file and doing something with that. Okay, and so it is written in Ruby, and it's very similar to the make utility in Unix, but it's much simpler syntax. Okay, and you simply specify a list of tasks to be done and pass it on to Rake, and Rake will do things for you. Okay, and so these tasks sometimes may have to be done in a certain sequence, and as you learn more about Rake, you'll get to know that. If you want to know what other things you can do with Rake, you can just look up Rake help or Rake tasks, and see what all things you can do. Now let's take a look. At this point you may not really know what each one does, but we'll get to use some of them. Tasks. Okay. So there are a whole bunch of Rake tasks we can do. Rake about. So this will list versions of all the software written on this machine. Okay. And then Rake assets. These assets are basically stuff used for any application development, and those are assets. You can get a list of all the assets, and you can also use Rake and DB colon. So DB means database, right? So if you want to create a database, and creating a database involves series of actions or series of things, and those series or things can be automated by using the Rake method. Okay, and so creating a table, dropping a table, or creating a migration, or undoing some changes made to the database. Many database related actions can be automated using Rake. Okay, and so you can do rake about. So there it is. So rake about will come back and tell you about your application's environment. So what version of Rails we're using, what version of Ruby, and what Java runtime are we using, and a whole bunch of other configuration related data can be looked up right away. Okay, so Rake is a useful utility, and we're going to use Rake to build create our table for us. Okay, we created we told Ruby what to use in terms of column names. Okay, these are the column names, and we also sort of indirectly specified what type of data each column will have. Now it's time to create the table. So how do you do that? We use Rake. So step number 15. So Rake db colon migrate. Okay. So it's done. Okay. So create movies is done, and now the development.sqlite 3 has a table called movies. Okay, that's good to know. And we can well, there's nothing in it, but if I want to see, I can do SQLite 3, and the file name is development SQL. Okay, this is in folder app.db, so I got to be in that folder. Okay, I'm in Rotten Potatoes. So if I want to use SQLite 3 to open development SQLite 3, I'll have to specify, I believe, SQLite 3 space and the path where the database is. That's under app slash, what's that?
It's not an app. It's just DB.
Just DB. Okay, DB slash development SQLite 3. Okay, and then if I want to know the tables, I can do dot tables. There it is. So dot tables will tell me the list of tables in this database, and there it is, movies. Okay, and there are no records in it. If I do select star from movies, and there's nothing in it, so it comes back with nothing. Okay, so database table has been created, okay, based on using the Rake utility. Okay, it all feels like magic, right? Very good. Okay. Okay, and now that we have a table in the database, and we are using the the object relational mapper, we can start adding stuff to this table. Okay, so how do we add stuff to the table? Well, we can do it directly by going into the SQLite 3 database, or we can do it indirectly using Rails. Okay, so you run rails.console. Okay, it's like IRB, the interactive Ruby. So here we're doing interactive Rails. Okay, so interactive Rails here, if I do movie, okay, let's see what happens. Okay, call movie connection to establish a connection. Okay, it is already connected to the database, and so I'm on step 18. Okay, step 18, what we're doing is there are the lines that begin with the hash or comments. So the very first line says Star Wars equals movie.create. Okay, so it looks like we are creating a new object called movie, and to this object we are submitting 1, 2, 3 hash values, and the keys and the values for the hashes. So the very first line, Star Wars equals movie.create, followed by exclamation. Okay, so movie create will create an object called Star Wars, and movie create exclamation will create an object called Star Wars, a movie object called Star Wars, but also it will write the data to the database. Okay, so movie create, and here I'm specifying title is going to be used. It will be Star Wars. Okay, comma, and release date okay. Not sure they need a, I think we need that's a typo. It should be a rocket, not equals. Okay, 25 4 1977. Have you watched the original Star Wars movies? Anybody? The first one? Yeah, that's good. All right, and comma, rating is PG. Okay, and if you didn't have any typo, oh, the thing looks like I have a typo. Unknown attribute. So this is the notes from the book. Let's see. Did I miss a step? Okay, let's save this. DB migrate went through. Let's see. I can see the schema. All right. Oh, you know what? I have a typo here. It should be release underscore date. Let's save this. No. Okay. Okay. Let's see. I'm wondering if the database got created. Def up, def change. Hmm. Let's see. Not sure why this is not working. Right. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and complete this offline. Now this material, this notes I gave you, it's basically derived from chapter 4 of the book. So what you do is you can actually follow along yourself later when you get home. If you go through chapter 4 of the book and the notes, you can complete this later. I will also complete it, and I'm creating a integrity recording of this, so I will update that so you can play it later to see how it works. Okay, right?
Will that PPT also that you will show?
Yeah, I will share that.
You will share that.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So we are out of time now, so you have to go, and we'll try and get this completed before we meet next class. Okay. So we're not going to not do anything between now and next class. We're going to try and finish this before next class. So next class we'll be looking at more advanced stuff. All right. Okay. Questions?
All of this? All of this?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Basically, it's what is described in the book, and so you will use that to go with that. And I will also be kind of doing it, so you can refer to my integrity recording as to how it works. All right. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you have done some work, right? So let me think about it. There will be some quiz. You need to have, I think, 10 or 11 quizzes in this class. So we'll definitely have a quiz. I'll tell you what content later. Okay. All right. Okay, before you go, let me just take a roll call, make sure your presence is marked.